24 teams, 10 cities, 51 matches, and 1 John McGinn. Yes, UEFA Euro 2024 gets underway this evening, beginning a month-long festival of European football in style with an absolute blockbuster of a contest between Germany and Scotland. There's enormous pressure on Germany following 3 disastrous tournaments by their own high standards, which is only exacerbated by the fact that they are the hosts and one of the favourites. There is a lot less pressure on Scotland, meanwhile, who failed to win a single game and only scored 1 goal at the last Euros, but they will be quietly confident about giving a better account of themselves this time around, following victories in qualifying against Norway and Spain. It is the first of 51 games that will ultimately crown the 17th champions of European football. It's interesting that more countries have won the Euros, 10 that have actually won the World Cup, 8, despite there having been 22 World Cups to date, and only 16 Euros. It shows that this is a tournament rife with upsets, where you can't take anything for granted, and there are very few easy games. Just ask France, World Cup winners in 2018, who were widely considered to have the best team at Euro 2020, but only managed to win 1 group game and were dumped out in the round of 16 by Switzerland. This is a tournament that has chewed up and spat out World Cup winners like France, Germany, Italy, England and Spain in the group stage before, whilst rewarding relative minnows like Denmark and Greece with the biggest prize of them all. For that reason, it would be totally stupid to try and predict how every single group and knockout stage will end up, wouldn't it? I mean, that would just be an absurd exercise in pointlessness without any merit whatsoever and a horrendous waste of everyone's time. Anyway, welcome to my full Euro 2024 predictions. As long-term subscribers will know all too well, I don't make prediction videos because I consider them to be deeply stupid and pointless, except for once every 2 years ahead of the Euros and World Cup, when they are, don't get me wrong, still entirely stupid and pointless, but I make one anyway, primarily so that I can make another video looking back at it at the end of the tournament, and you can all laugh at what a ludicrous idiot I truly am. Basically, I'm a masochist. I'll start with 7 bold general predictions that I have for Euro 2024, what with this being HITC Sevens and all, followed by my entire group and knockout stage predictions. I'll be honest, I have seen a few of these types of prediction videos, and they've all been pretty much the same. All of the usual suspects winning their groups, the favourites breezing through the round of 16 and most of the quarterfinals, and things only really getting interesting in the semi-finals. Yeah, this is a bit different to those predictions, which probably means that I am going to be horrifically wrong about almost everything, but at least it should make this video a bit more unpredictable and entertaining. In fact, as always, I should point out that my only definitive prediction is that all of my predictions will be wrong, and therefore, the only way that I will actually make a fool of myself is if everything that I predict actually happens. Without further ado then, who isn't at the Euros? To begin with, here are 7 of my boldest Euro 2024 predictions. 7th, Belgium revival. I've seen a lot of negativity surrounding Belgium heading into Euro 2024, and to be honest, in some ways, I get it. I think there is a general consensus that Belgium's golden generation has been and gone. Of the 2018 World Cup team, which was Belgium's best tournament, Vermaelen, Kompany, Fellaini, Dembele, and Hazard have all retired. There is no longer any Alderweireld, Chadli, Mertens, or Batshuayi, and Vertonghen is 37 now, Witsel is 35, and De Bruyne and Meunier are 32. Even Thibaut Courtois, who started in the Champions League final, didn't make Domenico Tedesco's squad, with Wolfsburg's Koen Castells expected to start for Belgium between the sticks. Belgium were also fairly uninspiring at Euro 2020, going out in the quarterfinals, and they were catastrophic at the 2022 World Cup, finishing 3rd behind Morocco and Croatia in a group that they were expected to win. For all of those reasons, I can understand why some people are dubious about Belgium's prospects, but allow me to inject some much-needed balance into the discourse, like some kind of incredibly reasonable vaccine. Belgium are in the weakest group at the Euros, up against Slovakia, Romania, and Ukraine, so any ideas of a group stage exit seem doubtful to me. They have an excellent midfield and attack, full of pace, power, and skill, and, much as it appears to have slipped under the radar a little bit, they're actually in excellent form. Since his appointment in February 2023, Italian-born but German-raised head coach Domenico Tedesco has won 10 of his 14 games in charge and is yet to taste defeat. That's a run of form that has included victories against Germany and Austria, as well as a 2-2 draw at Wembley against England. Lots of people are very bullish about Austria heading into this Euros, myself included, and for good reason, yet the narrative that Belgium are washed-up has-beens that are doomed to fail, while Austria are thrilling upstarts and dark horses, seems to overlook the inconvenient fact that Belgium actually finished above Austria in qualifying and went unbeaten in their 2 games against them. I don't think that Belgium are going to win the Euros, don't get me wrong. I expect their centre-back pairing of Alderweireld and Fast to be exposed against top-class opposition, but against anyone outside of that elite, I fancy their chances. I won't spoil my full predictions in this segment, but I'm tipping Belgium to make at least the quarter-finals, and I think that either one or both of Jeremy Doku or Leandro Trossard are going to be one of the stars of the tournament. 6th. Serbia collapse. I don't mean the country itself, just so that we're clear. Every tournament, it feels as though there is a little bit of excitement around Serbia, and again, I get it. One thing that Serbia have going for them, which a lot of teams are lacking at this Euros, is goals. Alexander Mitrovic has averaged a goal a game since moving to Saudi Arabia, and has scored a quite incredible 58 goals from 91 caps for the national team. That is a better rate of return than Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, or Robert Lewandowski have on the international stage, but he's not Serbia's only threat. Dusan Vlahovic is an €80 million forward who struck 18 times for Juventus this season. Luka Jovic once set Real Madrid back €60 million and is still only 26. And captain Dusan Tadic is aging like a fine wine and bagged 16 goals all of his own in his debut campaign at Fenerbahce this season. Sorry. I meant to be arguing that Serbia won't do well at the Euros, aren't I? Basically, we've been here before with Serbia. I fell into the trap of thinking that they'd be a real threat at the last World Cup, and I refuse to be seduced again. Their back three, outside of Nikola Milenkovic, is weak, Andrea Zivkovic at wing-back can't really defend, and it's still not clear who will partner Fulham's Sasha Lukic in central midfield. I also saw a fair bit of Serbia in qualifying, in a weak group it must be said, and honestly, they were very rarely convincing, losing both games against Hungary, and only narrowly turning what would have been 2 humiliating defeats against Bulgaria into draws, saving their qualification hopes. Head coach Dragan Stojkovic was one of the greatest Yugoslavian footballers of all time, but his philosophy as a head coach, he claims, is all-out attack. Serbia certainly carry a threat, as we've already established, but they also concede goals for fun. And if England, Denmark and Slovenia can prey upon that, which they ought to be able to, I think Serbia's prospects of going deep, as some are predicting, could be extinguished fairly quickly. England are definitely losing their opening game against them tomorrow now that I've said all of that, aren't they? There's just no doubt that is definitely now happening. 5th, Hungary to be the dark horses. I've already made an entire video about this one, should any of you be interested, covering Hungary's rise, fall, and rise again in international football, the political machinations of it all, head coach Marco Rossi, and both their tactics, personnel, and prospects at Euro 2024. Keeping things brief though, Hungary haven't lost a competitive game of football in over 18 months, back when they lost 2-0 against Italy. Hungary were expected to be the whipping boys in the top flight of the UEFA Nations League, drawn in Group 3 up against England, Germany and Italy. In actual fact, they very nearly won it, beating Germany in Leipzig and drawing against them in Budapest, and beating England 1-0 at home and 4-0 on the road. In Euro 2024 qualifying, meanwhile, they were one of only 6 teams to go undefeated, doing the double over Serbia, who are shorter odds than them to win the Euros, and are a lot of people's dark horses. The tricky thing about Hungary's prospects is that they have been drawn in Group A, the most competitive group at the Euros, which Germany will be expected to win, but then there is little to split Switzerland, Scotland, and themselves. Hungary have the weakest squad, on paper, and the weakest starting 11, which means that I wouldn't exactly be amazed if they were to go out in the group stage. I know that you are probably not supposed to say that about your dark horses in a predictions video, but although I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't, I still think that they will squeak through, and that they have proven that they are more than capable of upsetting one or two of the big boys. Hungary are extremely well-drilled and disciplined, they counter with speed and purpose, they have some genuine quality in Salai and Szoboszlai, operating just behind a man who is bang in form, the one and only Barnabas Varga. That is the condensed version of it all, the feature-length version is also available. Fourth, Bruno Fernandes to win Player of the Tournament. No one has ever won the Player of the Tournament award at the Euros without reaching the final. Yet, as you are about to discover, I haven't predicted that Portugal will make the final, but I have still got Bruno Fernandes as my Player of the Tournament. To be honest, if they don't make the final, he probably won't win it, so this is really more of a I think that he could have a really good tournament, probably make the team of the tournament, and could win the Player of the Tournament, but I'm not sure whether they will reach the final, and if they don't, then he probably won't. But to be honest with you, that doesn't sound like quite as bold of a prediction, does it? I would also have found it quite difficult to have fit all of that onto the screen. For almost 2 decades, Cristiano Ronaldo has been Portugal's star man. At age 39, he'll be hoping that he can be for one last time at the Euros. That's not impossible, Ronaldo certainly still knows where the goal is, and Portugal have lots of excellent creative players. In fact, accommodating Ronaldo, certainly better than they did at the World Cup, is probably the key to whether Portugal have a really special tournament, because they have got genuine quality, that isn't 39 years old, pretty much everywhere else. Except at centre-back, of course, where Pepe is literally 41, but may well still start. Is he trying to eat that ball? Anyway, I think Euro 2024 has the potential to be the first tournament, possibly since Euro 2004, where Ronaldo isn't Portugal's star man. And that's because of Bruno Fernandes. Fernandes was the star man in Euro 2024 qualifying, not just for Portugal, but in general I mean, leading the playmaking charts with 8 assists and being among the top scorers, tied with Erling Haaland on 6 goals. Almost 30 now, Fernandes has won 67 caps and scored 22 goals for Portugal, but he has never been as integral to them as he is under Roberto Martinez, and he is someone who seems to love the big occasions. Protected by the defensive nous of Bayern Munich target João Palhinha, and the energy of Man City star Bernardo Silva, Fernandes ought to be given the freedom of the park in one of the most talented teams at the tournament, with excellent international form behind him. I could be wrong. You know, it has been known to happen, but it seems like a recipe for success. Third, Croatia to overachieve. Again. Similar to the Belgium inclusion in some ways, from most of the predictions that I've seen, and just conversations with friends, it feels as though everyone has gone a bit cold on Croatia. The narrative, as with Belgium, appears to be that their best days are behind them, and in some senses, that's probably true. Key players from Croatia's 2022 World Cup squad, only 18 months ago, like Dejan Lovren, Marko Lavaja and Mislav Orsic, aren't in the current squad. Meanwhile, Ivan Perisic and Domagoj Vida are 35 now, and captain Luka Modric is 38, and surely playing in his final international tournament. For all of those reasons, most people seem to think that Italy and Spain will cruise through Group B, and Croatia will probably only sneak through as one of the 4 highest-ranked third-place teams before defeat in the round of 16. Again, we have been here before though, and while this Croatia team are yet to replicate their World Cup heroics at the Euros, I would be very cautious about dismissing their prospects. Zlatko Dalic is one of the best, and, at this stage, one of the most experienced managers at the Euros. Croatia produced their best performances and results when the odds are stacked firmly against them, and, crucially, they have goals in their team, arguably more so than Spain, and certainly more than Italy. Andrej Kramaric scored 17 goals this season, Bruno Petkovic scored 18 for Dinamo Zagreb, and Ante Budimir scored 18 for Osasuna. Budimir is unlikely to start for Croatia at the Euros, but I can see him making a big impact off the bench and being one of the breakout stars of this tournament. If indeed, you can be a breakout star at the age of 31. I think Croatia get out of the groups, quite possibly in one of the top 2 places. I expect them to make the quarterfinals if that is the case, and possibly even the semis. Second, Lukaku to win the Golden Boot. I'm not sure how bold this is because Romelu Lukaku is an incredible centre-forward with an outrageous goal-scoring record for Belgium, even better than Alexander Mitrovic's for Serbia, and having looked it up, he is only actually 14-1 odds to win the Golden Boot, trailing Kylian Mbappe, Harry Kane, and Cristiano Ronaldo. Nonetheless, certainly here in England, it feels as though Lukaku has almost become a figure of ridicule. That's bizarre, given his pedigree, and the fact that he actually played very well for Belgium quite recently against England themselves, but it is a consequence of his disastrous and very expensive return to Chelsea, and most of all, his comical cameo misses at the last World Cup, which played a large part in Belgium's early exit. This season, however, Lukaku scored 23 goals in 47 games for Roma, who only finished 6th in Serie A, and he has scored a quite astonishing 17 goals from only 11 caps for Belgium. Factor in Belgium's relatively weak group up against Slovakia, Romania and Ukraine, and the creativity behind him with the likes of De Bruyne, Doku, Trossard, Tielemans, and even Belgium's attacking fullbacks, and I think Lukaku should be able to hit 5 goals at this tournament, which will most likely put him in top scorer contention. First, the Netherlands and Italy to exit early. Okay, you are about to see my full Euro predictions, and, as I said, they're a little bit different to a lot of other people's. I mean, if I'm being honest with you, even I look at them and think, which idiot came up with this? But that idiot is me. Maybe my boldest prediction is that I don't think either the Netherlands or Italy are going to have very good tournaments. We'll start with the Dutch. They had a decent enough qualifying campaign, albeit they were thrashed 4-0 by France. They have excellent options at centre-back, with the likes of Virgil van Dijk, Matthijs de Ligt, and Stefan de Vrij. Really good wing-backs in Ian Matson and Denzel Dumfries, and then Nathan Ake and Mickey van der Ven, who can play at centre-back, full-back, or wing-back. On the flip side, however, none of their 3 goalkeepers have won more than 10 caps to date. Their midfield, the engine room of most great historic Dutch teams, now looks ragtag and lightweight, and up front, there is a real dearth of talent. To make matters even worse, Frenkie de Jong, who is the standout midfielder in the Netherlands squad, has just been forced to pull out of the tournament through injury. In terms of goals, the Dutch remain heavily reliant on Memphis Depay, who has only scored 2 goals for them since the 2022 World Cup, and failed to hit double figures for Atletico Madrid this season. And to top it all off, unlike at the World Cup, where I thought that they overachieved with a better squad than they have now under Louis van Gaal, they no longer have a top manager at the helm, but Ronald Koeman. As for Italy, who are of course the defending champions heading into this Euros, the positives come in the form of Luciano Spalletti, who is obviously a very capable manager, a solid squad built on the back of a very good Inter Milan team, complemented by a couple of excellent players in the form of Alessandro Buongiorno and Federico Chiesa. My dubiousness about Italy's prospects come as a result, primarily, of everything that I've seen of them since they won the Euros. Italy were distinctly unimpressive in Euros qualifying, losing at home and away against England, drawing against Ukraine and North Macedonia, and only actually qualifying by virtue of having a superior goal difference to Ukraine, having also failed, of course, to qualify for the last World Cup. Another big question mark with Italy is in terms of goals, by which I mean, where are they going to come from? There seems to be some kind of consensus that either Gianluca Scamacca or Giacomo Raspadori are suddenly going to turn on the style in Germany. And maybe they will. Scamacca certainly has had a decent season. But there are no guarantees. There isn't a single player in Italy's Euro 2024 squad who has scored 10 or more goals for the national team. Midfielder Nicolo Barella, who is probably Italy's best player, is the top scorer in this squad with 9 goals from 53 caps. That is less than ideal, and in a tough group, if Italy wobble in their opening game against Albania tomorrow night, which I will be at, I think that they could be in real trouble. Both the Netherlands and Italy should make the knockouts, and probably the quarterfinals, but I'm not convinced. There's always 1 or 2 big hitters that make an early exit. It's going to be England, isn't it? But I can see one of the Dutch or the Italians going out in the group stage, or at least the round of 16, if not possibly both of them. Right, those are my 7 not very quick fire bold predictions. Now it is time for my full predictions, you lucky devils. We'll just go through group by group and round by round. Obviously, it would seem strange to start with a final and then work our way backwards. I've made no secret of the fact that I think that Group A is the most competitive group, and therefore the toughest to call. I don't know why I would make any secret of that, but I think that enough will click for Germany, at least if they can get the job done against Scotland tonight, that they will win the group. Their midfield and particularly attacking players, in terms of wingers and number 10s, which is likely to be 3 out of the 4 of Musiala, Gundogan, Wirtz and Sane in every game, should be enough to see them top the group. But it also should have been enough for them to progress from the group at the World Cup, so, who knows. It could be any combination of the next 3. Switzerland have the most pedigree as knockout stage regulars, and probably the strongest squad on paper. Scotland will enjoy the most support out in Germany, and had an excellent qualifying campaign, and, well, I've already talked about Hungary at length. Naturally, I have to back my own dark horses, and I just think that Switzerland have slightly better players and slightly more firepower than Scotland, which is why I've got Group A shaping up like that. Group B is probably the strongest group overall, but unlike in Group A, there is one team who, theoretically, ought to be some way off the other 3. That team is Albania, of course, competing in only their 2nd ever major tournament. They gave a decent account of themselves in their first, at Euro 2016, winning 1 game but still going out in the group stage, and, much as I hope that I'm wrong, I suspect that history will repeat itself. Don't imagine that Albania will be whipping boys. They have plenty of top flight and European pedigree. They've just been dealt a rubbish hand with their group and lack real firepower with Armando Broja coming into the Euros off the back of such a poor season. Sticking with my bold predictions, I think either Croatia or Spain will win the group. Probably Spain, and as I already outlined, I can see Croatia doing better than a lot of people expect, and Italy perhaps doing a fair bit worse. Hence their ordering. I am absolutely not certain about England winning Group C. In fact, I'm much less confident than I was about England winning their group at Euro 2020 and the 2022 World Cup, but having purchased tickets up to the semi-finals for England's games, assuming that they win the group, I couldn't bring myself to put them anywhere other than first. Despite there being a lot of doom and gloom surrounding Denmark, including from most of their own supporters that I've encountered, and a lot of positivity surrounding Serbia, I think that Denmark probably present the biggest challenge to England in terms of winning the group. They have a solid goalkeeper and back line, an experienced, if a little tired-looking midfield, and the wildcard of Rasmus Højlund up front, who has so far scored 7 goals from 14 caps. For that reason, I expect Denmark to progress, most likely in second, and, again, I've got to back up my Serbia collapse prediction, so there they are, in last place, below Slovenia. In fairness, just to defend myself since I can't see many people agreeing with this take, Slovenia won 22 points in Euros qualifying, the same number as Denmark, in the same group, and 8 more than Serbia. Slovenia have only tasted 1 defeat, against Denmark, since July 2023, in a run of form which has included victories against the likes of Portugal and the United States, and they possess genuine quality at either end of the pitch through Jan Oblak and Benjamin Šeško. Alright, the bit in the middle might not be the greatest, admittedly, but as with a few teams at this tournament, I suspect that anyone who expects them to roll over is in for something of a surprise. France don't tend to make too many mistakes in the group stage, and I would be surprised if they didn't emerge victorious in Group D, even up against an in-form Austria and a highly rated Dutch team. I've already shared my views on the Netherlands and where I think their pitfalls are, and while it is easy to get carried away with Austria, it is worth noting that they only actually lost against eventual winners Italy in extra time at the last Euros, at the round of 16 stage, in a game in which I felt they were fairly unfortunate to lose. They are a better team now than they were then, even with the painful absence of starman David Alaba, so I am all aboard the Austria bandwagon, at least insofar as I think that they'll reach the knockout stage. It feels as though Poland are a bit of an afterthought, despite still boasting the likes of Wojciech Szczesny, Piotr Zielinski and Robert Lewandowski, albeit they are now 34, 30 and 35 years of age. Poland reached the round of 16 at the World Cup, and it's not unfathomable that they could repeat the feat at the Euros. I just think, on the balance of probabilities, that it's more likely that they won't. Group E is Belgium's to lose, I believe, although I think Ukraine's forwards could give them some trouble, but if they don't win at least 2 games and top the group, I would be fairly surprised. Ukraine, despite only qualifying via the playoffs, I think are the next best team. And we ought not forget, they won the exact same number of points in England's qualifying group as Italy, who would be heavily backed to progress from this group at the Euros. They'll be backed heavily by the large Ukrainian diaspora population that has been displaced to Germany over the last couple of years, and indeed by most neutrals, and if Artem Dovbyk can carry his La Liga form into the Euros, they carry a serious threat. Slovakia and Romania both had excellent qualifying campaigns, especially Romania, who went unbeaten, but both of them have the same problem: a lack of goals. That's why I think that they'll both finish below Belgium and Ukraine, but Romania were extremely well-drilled in qualifying, with a squad packed full of modest players in their mid-20s, and I expect them to get the better of Slovakia, and possibly even finish second, if they can keep a clean sheet against Ukraine. And last but not least, Group F ought to be relatively comfortable for Portugal, who were the only team to win all 10 games in qualifying, and have probably one of the 3 best squads and starting 11s at the tournament. It is a toss-up then between Turkey and the Czech Republic for second, and, at risk of sounding like a broken record at this stage, it is Turkey's striking options that count against them for me. The Czech Republic, it should be said, have the youngest and by far the least experienced squad at Euro 2024, with an average age of just 25.3 and an average number of caps among their squad of just 15.9. The next lowest figures come from Italy and Spain, incidentally, with 21 and 21.2, so it's not even particularly close. There are, however, some goals in their squad. Tomáš Souček and Antonin Barak are both capable of scoring goals from midfield. In demand Sparta Prague defender Ladislav Krejci has a sharp eye for goal and is one of the players to watch at this tournament. And up top, Patrick Schick scored the goal of the tournament at the last Euros from the halfway line and comes into this tournament off the back of an extraordinary invincible domestic double with Bayer Leverkusen. Turkey, by contrast, have lots of neat and tidy midfield and wide players, and have improved since being the worst dark horses of all time at the last Euros, but are totally toothless up front. Their best option, though it is unclear whether Vincenzo Montella will throw him into their starting 11 tomorrow night in Dortmund, is probably 18-year-old Semi Kilatsoy, who is the 4th youngest player at the Euros, and has only won 1 cap for Turkey to date. Long story short, I think it will go Portugal, the Czech Republic, Turkey and Georgia, in that order, but I will be attending at least 2 of Georgia's games at the Euros and charting their journey at their first ever major tournament on my second channel, so I am hoping that they can produce some kind of a miracle. The 4 third-place teams that I think will progress, and obviously I've no idea, this is totally ridiculous and we are well and truly into the realm of make-believe at this stage, are Switzerland, Italy, Romania and Turkey. Turkey, it should be said, and Albania for that matter, will have huge support at the Euros, owing to their large German-based immigrant and diaspora populations. In the round of 16, Spain ought to progress against Romania, and I am backing them to do so, but that is a textbook game where a well-disciplined Romania team park the bus, win with a dodgy own goal or on penalties, and Rodri comes out crying, claiming that it shouldn't count because they didn't attempt to play Spain off the park. Germany shouldn't have too much trouble against Denmark, you wouldn't think, assuming that they've hit their stride in the group stage, although that is what people thought at Euro 92, and just look how that ended up for them. I don't think this Denmark team have the same quality as the 92 team.
I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man. Do you understand?
So I'm going for a Germany win. Switzerland caused a huge upset in the round of 16 at the last Euros, beating France on penalties, but I think they are a slightly worse team now, and replicating the feat against Portugal will be one almighty task. Austria are just better than Ukraine, and much as that doesn't always count in a one-off fixture, I would make them heavy favourites in that game. Italy would be great round of 16 opponents for Belgium on the basis that they are weakest at centre-back and Italy don't possess a top-class centre-forward to occupy them. So whilst that is probably the tightest contest yet, I'm sticking to my guns regarding early Dutch and Italian exits. France, you'd have to imagine, would make light work of the Czech Republic, with Soufal and Zima on their right flank feeling like a bit of a mismatch up against Kylian Mbappe. England versus Turkey would be great nostalgia, as one of my earliest memories of supporting England were a couple of seriously nasty games against Turkey in 2003. You know, those types of games where the commentator says that it's scenes that no one wants to see, other than everyone, because it was great entertainment. That would be one of only 3 or 4 potential games at the Euros where England wouldn't totally dominate in terms of support inside the stadium, although I'd be there, and I'm pretty loud. But I would still back England to win it, due to Turkey's lack of firepower that I've already talked about, and England's plentiful firepower that I haven't yet. The final round of 16 tie is maybe the toughest to call because, counterintuitively, I would actually rate Hungary's chances of winning higher against one of the favourites, like a Germany, Portugal or England, than I would against someone like Croatia, who won't feel the same pressure to carry the game to Hungary, but just have better players, and theoretically ought to eventually grind them down. Croatia are also masters on penalties, as we saw at the World Cup, which is a useful trick to have up your sleeve. In the quarterfinals, I think Spain versus Germany would be a close and exciting match, just as it was at the last World Cup, with Germany's home advantage and goal threat giving them a slight edge. Portugal should beat Austria, but, you know, there is something about this Austria team, at their best, in terms of the relationships that they have across the pitch and how they work for one another, and I'm not convinced, despite having far superior players, that Portugal have fully moved on from being the Ronaldo show and have turned into a team. Plus, hey, look, there's always upsets at tournaments, so why not take a stab at guessing where they might come? So I've plumped for Austria to beat Portugal, probably in extra time. Belgium's revival will most likely come to an end if they meet France, who do have the attacking talent to punish their weak centre-back pairing. And yeah, look, to be totally honest with you, I'm not sure what to expect of England at this Euros. In 2022, 2020, and even 2018, despite what preceded it, I felt confident that England would make at least the quarterfinals and would only go out when they met a good team who played well. In all 3 cases, that is exactly what happened. And even though England went out in the World Cup quarterfinals, it still felt like progress to me in a game that they could easily have won against an excellent France team, and only an uncharacteristic Harry Kane penalty miss prevented that game from going to extra time. This time around, however, it feels like Gareth Southgate has chopped and changed quite a lot, and there are lots of uncertainties heading into the tournament. England basically don't have a left-back, at least until Luke Shaw returns, who hasn't played in months. Mark Gay and John Stones have barely played together at centre-back. Confusion persists as to who is the best candidate to partner Declan Rice in central or holding midfield, and even who starts on the left flank, most likely Phil Foden, shoehorned in there due to Bukayo Saka and Jude Bellingham occupying his preferred positions, is a bit of a contentious issue. There's a chance that it could all come together, with Trippier rediscovering his form at left-back, Gay proving his class at international level at centre-back, and Trent pinging about balls in midfield. but I'd be lying if I said that I was confident about all of that happening. From considering England to be joint favourites with France just a few months ago, with a more settled back line, I now think that the semi-finals would represent a pretty decent tournament, although clearly, the attacking talent in this team means that they are rightly considered to be serious contenders, and would be big favourites going into a quarter-final against Croatia. I hope they win it, because I've got tickets to the semi-final that follows it, but pre-tournament, I feel pretty 50-50 about this one. Obviously, if England perform brilliantly in the group stage and round of 16, my sentiment would probably change. Nonetheless, I have given England the win, but not with much conviction. And then, at the end of it all, Germany ought to be a step too far for Austria, who'd probably still be knackered from that extra time win against Portugal, if any of this were actually going to happen, which it obviously isn't. And of course, based upon everything that I've just said, I would make France the favourites against England. To be honest, if England do make it through to the semis, that probably means they've played pretty well, and if their front four, whatever combination of players it is by then, can click, they are more than capable of beating anyone. France don't have the same weaknesses or confusion heading into the Euros as England though, or at least not to the same extent, and for that reason, I'm predicting a repeat of the World Cup, but at the semi-final stage this time around. And in the final, well, I've gone for France. They've got the best team, and despite making consecutive World Cup finals, this team has a point to prove following disappointment at the last Euros, so they would be my favourites. I'm pretty sure that they were also my favourites at Euro 2020 though, where they went out against Switzerland in the round of 16, so what the hell do I know? Just to illustrate how pointless all of this is, over half an hour in, I made one edit to my group stage predictions, Croatia finishing above Spain, and just look how it changed pretty much my entire predictions, other than the eventual winners. All of a sudden, I've got Croatia making the semis, Germany out in the quarters, Hungary through to the quarters, playing Spain would suit them a lot more than Croatia in my opinion, and Austria making the final. So, you know, like I say, stupid and pointless, but I hope that you all had fun. I am currently on a train from East Yorkshire to Dusseldorf. That's not a direct route, sadly. It goes via London and Brussels. And I am going to be spending the entire Euros in Germany, attending lots of games and covering them, among other things, including my journey there, actually, on both this and my second channel. So, if you're interested in some less stupid and pointless videos, although only marginally less, it should be said, I don't want to engage in any false advertising here, then make sure that you are subscribed and have notifications turned on for both of them. That is it for today's video, but thank you all very much as ever for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it, pointless and stupid as it was. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. You know, what predictions do you think are the worst ones that I've made? The really just totally insane ones that you can't believe that someone, that this is their job, would really have come out with such catastrophic nonsense. And of course, as I said, make sure that you are subscribed and have notifications turned on for both channels, both of which should be about to appear on your screens now, along with a couple of videos that you might fancy watching after this one. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram or Threads via the username at HITC Sevens on all three, and all of those links plus a whole lot more should be down in the video description below. Cheers.